I've made a bit of a change to the Patrol, which I've sort of talked about a little bit in some of my recent videos, and it's something I've been probably wanting to do for a little while, and that's change the wheels from steel to now alloy. Now I've been on steel wheels pretty much from day one, and they've served me pretty well going forward with all the trips that I've been on. So I wanted to go to alloy for a few reasons, which we'll get into some pros and cons a bit later on down the track. But thing with alloys, I just want to sort of point out a couple of issues that I found with getting what I sort of wanted, which I'm sure some of you guys may know what I'm talking about here, and anyone who's sort of looking to maybe go from steel to alloy or just looking to buy a set of alloy wheels. This is what it is, some of the issues that I found, whether it's just with my particular model, I'm not sure, could be across the board, but this is what I found with the GU. So the first one was sizing was a big issue for what I wanted with going with alloy wheels. I've always run 16 by 8. My Patrol comes out standard with 17 by 8 was standard wheels, but pretty much from day one, I went back to 16-inch wheels, which is what I wanted to keep. And the reason why dropping back to a 16-inch wheel, when you go and put a tyre on in the 33, you get a lot higher sidewall in it, which is certainly a big advantage when you go letting your tyre pressures down. So I wanted to stick with that 16 by 8. Now, I looked at across the board of probably 3 or 4 of the major alloy wheel manufacturers right across, and I looked at anything from 16 by 8. Now, even getting just a 16-inch wheel was a bit of a challenge. But then, the ones that I did like in the 16s, I went into deeper, open it up and have a bit more look at the information about that particular wheel. And then the offset then was the next big issue with the wheels that I sort of liked, because I've always run sort of that -13 offset, which is the dish size of the dish on those wheels. And I wanted to stick to somewhere around that -13, because that way with my Patrol, it just kept the tyres maybe just level with the guards, maybe a fraction outside, but pretty much just level with the guards, which is sort of what you want. You really don't want your tyres hanging outside the guards, because then it just creates all sorts of dramas with law and insurance issues and that sort of stuff. So I was looking for that -13 offset, and that was really difficult to try and get that or something close to that in that 16-inch wheel that I was looking for. Now, there was plenty in like a negative offset. It's like 0 offset, so no offset at all, which I didn't want that, because then that'd pull the wheels sort of fairly well inside the guards, which that'd look a bit odd. And then the other extreme was a massive big extreme was the -22 offset. Now, I didn't want to go -22. Yeah, they'd look pretty sick, that's for sure. Big deep dish. They would look magnificent on the rig, but only problem with the -22, it would have pushed the tyres outside my guards, and I didn't want to go down that issue. So there's probably one of the main dramas was getting the right sizing they wanted. So I've ended up settling for 16 by 8 with a -10 offset, which -10, -14 or -13, very chalk and cheese, very, very close together. So I'm really happy with the -10, and it's probably just pulled it just inside the guards, just that little bit for what I wanted. So I'm happy with that. So I've got 16 by 8 with a -10 offset, and yeah, I think they look pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with them. And then the other reason for making the change, which it's a thing that I've been talking about for a long time, and that's weight reduction. With getting my rig as light as I can possibly get it, without going too over extreme and too many big compromises, I suppose, with cutting too much weight out of it. But everything that I've pulled out of it so far has been fantastic and a great reason for doing it, and it's only benefited my Patrol going forward. But weight was certainly a big one. Now, I was always pretty keen to see what these wheels weighed. Now, these wheels I had, they were those imitation beadlocks. Now, they're probably in the steel wheel. Now, they're probably weighing a little bit more than probably your average steel wheel, because they had that, that outer imitation beadlock ring on it. Now, there's probably a few kilos probably in that. And then those 20-odd bolts around the outside, that all weighs up. So they're probably weighing a bit more than the average sort of steel wheel. But here's the difference. My alloys now, that's my alloy wheels at 8.3 kilo each one of those weighs, right? And there's the steel ones. They were 15.8, so double the weight. That's massive, I reckon. So 8 kilos by 5. So that's 40 odd kilos I've pulled out of it just by going from steel wheels down to alloys. But as I mentioned, they probably are weighing a little bit more than your average, steel wheel. So I thought that was pretty huge. I was actually surprised by the difference from 8.3 for an alloy wheel that I've got on it now to 15.8. Yeah, it's huge, I reckon. So I'm happy certainly with that weight reduction. 40 kilos there I've taken out of it. Suitable offsets have covered all that. Now here's some of the pros and cons, I suppose. I don't know whether you guys have sort of into this and what you've been doing here, where maybe experienced it. Wide split rims, and I'd get rid of the my alloys. There you go. He's got rid of them. And Revs and from Tassie, how you going there, mate? Thanks there for coming in there tonight. So some of the pros and cons. There's quite a few pros and cons with going from alloy to steel or steel to alloy, whichever way you're going to go. And certainly a big one with alloys compared to steel, it's the price point. There's a big difference in pricing. You can buy probably most of your steel wheels brand new. They're sort of going to be anywhere from say $80, maybe up to sort of 110, 120 a wheel. As opposed to your alloy wheels, they're going to be sort of 280 and upwards, 300 plus for your alloy wheels. So there's certainly some things to consideration there when you're looking to, whichever way you may be thinking about going, if you are looking to make this change from steel down to alloys. There's certainly a big difference in your price point. That is for sure. And then the other thing is I suppose, with steel again versus alloy wheels is your steel wheels. If you're out there, you got your tire pressures all let down nice and low, and and you go and ding the outer rim on your steel wheel, you go and ding it, and all of a sudden air starts pissing out of it, and where it's leaking there. Well, one advantage with that is, if you can get a big steel hammer, if you got one, you can just belt that steel wheel back into shape, and be back on your way. Put some air back in your tire again, and be back on your way. But look, I suppose for the many years that I've been out full drive, and there's never once I've had to go and do that. Now, touch wood, I suppose, because I hate to. Now got alloys on it. The first time I go and run them up Billy Gay Bluff Track or something like that, I go and crack one or do some damage. So I probably shouldn't talk too loud, but that is certainly one big advantage with your steel wheel. If you go and damage the outer rim, you can get a big steel hammer. I've seen it done, but I've never had the issue done with my vehicle, my Patrol there at all, with having to take a hammer to any of the steel wheels. And then there's some of the advantages as opposed to steel versus alloys is certainly just looks. There's so many more designs and that sort of thing when it comes to alloy wheels as opposed to steel wheels. Your designs are pretty limited with the steel wheel as opposed to alloys. There's just hundreds and hundreds of different designs. It's actually a bit of a nightmare actually, as to when you start looking at these, you start going through catalogs and fair income. The amount of different designs, it's quite overwhelming, really. So that's certainly one advantage. As pros and cons there is, you're a bit limited on steel as to which way you're going to go there. And the other thing too with alloys, as compared to steel wheels, is the damage of them. With scratches and all that sort of stuff. Now, again, depending on what sort of full driving, I suppose you're doing when you're looking at alloy versus steel, but I suppose if you're a bit concerned about scratches, going to spend that sort of money on a decent set of alloy wheels, and you're going to be a bit concerned about scratching them, well, you might not want to go and get a set of alloys, just stick with steels. Whereas me, I'm not fussed at all. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a full drive. I go and use it. It's a bit like all the scratches down the side of my Patrol. I'm not fussed about that. I had scratches in it from border track in the first 2 weeks of when it was a brand new vehicle, and scratches I'm not greatly fussed about. At the end of the day, I get out there and use it. And this will be the same with the wheels. Yeah, they're going to get some scratches on them, going to get some scuffs on them, but so be it. I use it. It's not my vehicle's not just used just to go to the shopping centre and back again. I actually go bush and I fair income use it. So scratches and that sort of stuff aren't going to phase me at all. Chris, I used to run alloys and was having issues with them cracking each time, hit rocky tracks. Well, there you go. Well, I'll certainly find that out because pretty shortly, because I've got a few tracks in mind. So we'll see how we go with it. But Yeah, I've and that look, and you look at a lot of the Y62s and these modern cars these days, a lot of them are pretty much all alloy wheels. They all come and got alloys fitted on 'em. I don't know whether I've seen, sure there's going to be one out there or someone's going to let me know, but I'm sure there's going to be steel wheels on them. But you do see a lot of alloys on these, certainly modern day vehicles. So whether that's the way they go, I'm not sure. John, there, I saw your vehicle parked in Packy the other day. Yeah, it was down there getting a bit of service done on it at my mechanic down there. So yeah, it was down there for a few days, and that's what was down there. Like your hubs, how you going there, mate? With weight of the rims, it less matters with what actual weight of the wheel is, and more importantly, where the weight is relation to the axles and rotation. That's just getting too high tech for me. I'm not going to get into that, but if you want to look into that a bit deeper, you can certainly look at that. But that's certainly what I found, twice the weight from sitting on the same bit of scales and same positioning, and that's the figures I got. So I'm pretty happy with that. And look, even just the feel, it just feels different. Just driving it. So, and plus there's a new set of tyres going on as well. Now got the brand new Goodyear Wranglers on it. So pretty keen to try out this whole package and see how it all performs when we get out there in the bush. It's a little easy to fix the sidewall problem. Yeah, and the split rims. Yeah, I sort of mentioned that over to your alloys. You certainly can fix your steel wheels. But as I said, I've never had that drama where I've had to take a big hammer to a steel wheel and fix it. I've certainly seen it done, as I mentioned, but I've never had to go and do it myself. Takes a lot to break an alloy, but yeah, I think so too. Like, I don't know whether alloy wheels have come a long way over the years, with strength and all this sort of stuff. But hey, I'm more than happy with what I've got, and happy with the change. I'm glad to get those steel ones off. And so we'll see how this setup goes going forward. But yeah, it'd be interesting to Mike there, down to 2 alloys crossing creeks at Fraser Island. Righto, crossing the creeks at Fraser Island, sand, righto. That's an interesting one. So yeah, certainly people are having some pros and cons there with alloy versus steel, but yeah, we'll certainly find out going forward. Biggles is signing in. Good on you, mate. Glad to see you here. The Wander Australia, how you going there, mate? Just ticked over 100,000 Ks on my Duratrack Wranglers, mate. 100,000. That's they're good going. That's the old tread pattern. It's the brand new tread pattern now. The old tread pattern, which is the one you've got, and the ones that I had on my Patrol, they're no longer going to be available. There's a brand new tread pattern out in the Duratrack, and they're wicked. So I've got a set on, and yeah, pretty keen to try them out. Oh, Mark. Look at Mark's comment down there. It's going to be that. So anyway, that's what I've got. But yeah, I'm more than happy with the setup I've got. Are you reducing weight for the GVM economy and both? Well, always reduce weight especially for GVM. That's certainly the number one reason why I have reduced weight out of it. I could have looked into going GVM upgrades, but one big bucks to get an engineering certificate, and then you got to go and do the work on getting the engineering upgrade and GVM upgrades and that sort of stuff. But I didn't want to get a GVM upgrade to where it allows me to carry another 300, 400, 500 kilo. I would rather go the other way and get it lighter and lighter as possible. So that's why I've gone the way I went. And in my first initial weight reduction of the trial, I pulled nearly 300 kilo out of it. So it's now pretty much sits under GVM. My GVM on the trial is 3,030 kilo. And it pretty much sits under GVM, even when I pretty much load it now to get away on a trip. But I'm not carrying families and all this sort of stuff. So there's it's not so hard to pull a lot of weight out when you've got a setup like what I've got, where I travel a lot by myself for those reasons. But yeah, GVM was the number one reason for getting it down, and didn't want to go upgrades. Terrific channel. Thanks very much there, Mike. Greatly appreciate that, mate. Awesome feedback there. 80 had alloys for years and no issues. Fingers crossed. Have just been lucky, but with continuing the temp, I'm the same. Temp and fate will, like I said, hopefully now that after mentioning I've never had to take a hammer to my steel wheels, that I don't go and damage one first time out when I go and eventually go and hit the bush, because it's not far away when I do get out. How much were your new tyres? Sorry, I missed the size. I'm running 33s. Hey, like I won't get into pricing that sort of stuff because I do a little bit with Goodyear. But yeah, but I'm running 33-inch tyres on mine. I'm not interested in 35s. I'll never run 35-inch tyres on the vehicle. So yeah, stick with the 33s. You're spot on, mate. Lighter is better. Yeah, look, everyone's got their own reason for why they set up their rig, but yeah, everything's about weight with everything I do and whatever I can take out of it, and I'm still looking at other options. And I think I've just about come to the end, apart from maybe putting an aluminium bull bar in the front of it, which that wouldn't bother me either. Drop a fair bit of weight there, but I'm almost at the end, and so we'll see how we go with it all going forward. But love it how it is. I'd much rather fit an alloy wheel on a tyre onto my rear swing arms. Yeah, looking certainly a lot lighter to lift up. Certainly that's one thing for sure is lifting, especially up onto some of these tray backs, is how you get those spare tyres. One, get them down, but then two, got to get them back up there. Especially on the back of tray backs, some of those are pretty high. I'd like to see some of these people lift some of these wheels up because they're pretty high. That's some of them sure, and big weight, especially in these steel wheels. So there you go, guys. Thought we'd have just a quick chat about that one, but and that's why I'm sort of looking at, and and that's why I've gone with 16s as opposed to looking at 17s. Didn't want to go 17s at all. So for those reasons, just that higher sidewall, and you'll find too and it's weird because in a 16-inch tire as opposed to a 17-inch tire, like there's nearly $80 to $100 difference cheaper in tires as in a 16 as opposed to 17. Now work that out because you get more rubber in a 16 because of higher sidewall as opposed to a 17-inch tire, which is a 70 series. But yeah, the 16-inch tires are a bit lighter, and I'm just wondering whether maybe a lot of vehicles now aren't going 16-inch wheels, as to maybe that's why might have had issues in the beginning to try and get a suitable wheel that I liked in the sizes and everything I wanted. But there was plenty of options with the bigger wheels, 17s and above. There was plenty of options there with size and that sort of stuff. But the 16s were pretty challenging to get the size and offset that I wanted in a wheel that I liked. So, do you find any clearance differences with now the 16s? Clearances, as in, I'm not sure with what you mean in there with the clearance. I'm maybe talking about brake calipers and that sort of stuff. But there's no issue with brake calipers on my Patrol, on my vehicle. You have to look into it yourself if you're looking to go down a size in wheels. You just got to make sure there's plenty of room, particularly around the front brakes, because they're generally the bigger calipers. You've got to make sure there's plenty of clearance around it if you're going to drop back a size from standard. But there's plenty of room in mine, that's for sure, with going from 16s back to 17s. Serious question. Do they weigh more inflated or deflated? Have always wondered as a purchase tyres. I'm not really sure about that one at all, mate. Don't know. Maybe you put helium in your tyres, they'd probably be a lot lighter if they had helium in them. But you probably don't want to go doing that. But I'm not really sure on that one. So I'd probably say they might be heavier with air in them, I reckon, but who knows? Could be just a guess. I was never much good at physics and that sort of stuff at school. I hated it. Brendan, the more research I do about tyres and rims, the more confused I get on what I should update to. Well, again, just got to weigh it all up. Weigh up your situation, which is what I've done. Weigh up your situation, weigh up what sort of forward driving you're going to go and do, locations you're going to go, and all that sort of stuff. But like I said, I've been thinking about this for quite a long while about making the change. And like I said, I've had that card now since 2009. It's had steel wheels all the way through, and now I've made the change. And everything's based around weight was the number one thing, and then just went on from there as to why I made that change. Are you worried about the nuts coming off the alloys? No, I'm not, mate. I've looked into that as well, and apparently, I think it's only the original GU alloy wheel was the issue, not so much alloy wheels full stop. I don't know of anyone who's had a non-factory alloy come off the front, but I'm certainly not concerned about that at all, because I did speak to a number of people, and even my mechanic that does a fair bit of work on my Patrol. He's 20 years Nissan service manager, and now run his own business, which he's doing now for years. And I spoke to him in detail about it too, and that's what he was saying. It's not so much alloy wheels was the issue; it's pretty much just that the genuine GU alloy front left is the main wheel that used to come off. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, hopefully that's right as well. So we'll see about that going forward. Chad Smallby is right. Have you dented your steel wheels? No, my steel wheels are in mint condition. There's still no damage, never have been damaged. They balance up, no worries. So there's no dramas there, but there's absolutely no damage on them at all. So they're still sitting out in the shed. The poor ones come off Ronnie's. I think Ronnie's he's done a few sort of wheel and steel versus alloy comparos. So some interesting points that he sort of makes too. Keep the nuts tightened up within the specs. Yeah, like I do when I do my wheel rotations, I do them up with a what do they call them? Tension wrench. I don't just do it up with a wheel brace. I actually do tension them up to the required specs, which I won't go into those numbers because they're all different for all sorts of vehicles. But I do have a number that I do tension it up to. So yeah, that's something you certainly need to look into when you're doing wheel changes. How often do you do the big three, mate? Rotate, balance, and alignment. I do my rotations now. I've only got 5 wheels. I do my rotations close to every 10, which is 10,000 Ks, which is fine for a aggressive all-terrain. When I had the muddies on a few years ago, I was rotating those every 5, which is probably ideal with the mud tyre, rotate them a bit more regular. And the wheel balance, and I don't do a wheel balance at all unless I get any vibrations going through the steering wheel, and I do all my own rotations, and and even putting front wheels to back wheels and back wheels to front. I've never had any issues with a balance, so I don't see the need to go and do a balance as long as it's driving straight and that sort of stuff. No worries. And then when it comes to a wheel alignment, well, I haven't done one for ages, and we didn't even do a wheel alignment when these new wheels and tires went on. It was driving dead straight before it went in. And it was test driven after the new wheels and tyres went on, still driving dead straight. So why touch it? So I haven't had a wheel alignment done on that Patrol for fair income a long time. It's always steer straight. I don't ever have a problem with it. So if it ain't broken, don't fix it. I just leave it alone, which is what they did there the other week when these wheels and tyres went on. We didn't touch anything. Do you take any power tools when you go camping? No, none at all, mate. I really don't. I could probably take battery ones, I suppose, but yeah, no, I don't. I like some people might take those battery bloody thingos to do their wheel nuts and stuff like that, but no, I don't. Yeah, keep it pretty simple, nothing at all like that. I love to change, but the alloy wheels and rims, yeah, in my boat, trailer and that sort of stuff, is the money is a big change. Yeah, that's the only problem with alloys. There's a fair bit of money with difference in price between that and steel. So again, just got to weigh it all up with the pros and cons, because there's pros and cons for both wheels. You just got to weigh it up as to which way you do go. To think about, guys, if you're maybe looking to do a change from steel wheels to alloy, look about going back. Pros and cons, weigh it all up, price point, as opposed to whether you're worried about scratching them and that sort of stuff, because they will get scratched. There's no ifs, buts about it. But if it's not an issue, well, maybe have a good look at it. Good on you guys. Greatly appreciate it. Wicked comments coming through, and greatly appreciate all your feedback. And we'll catch you later on. Hope you had a good weekend and stay safe, and we'll see you next time.